welcome to Let's Be Perfectly Queer,
a queer podcast creating space to talk about all things queer.
My name is Archie.
And I'm Katie.
And we are your hosts.
Questions of how you identify, seeking answers to clarify. Whether you're queen
or somewhere in between, let's be perfectly queer.
And we are back again, sounding very croaky.
And why are we sounding very croaky?
Because we were cheering extra hard at the Pride Parade last night. Because we fully support everyone at the Pride Parade. And this is why we sound like this. I actually don't mind me sounding like this. I sound gravelly. I think I sound sexy, obviously.
Sure, yeah.
Don't even sure me. Don't sure me, buddy. This is, okay, I feel like if I was a lesbian, I should sound like this. Yeah. But I'm not, I'm pan. But like if I were to take all the heterosexuality, out of me, this is how I should sound as a butch lesbian. Do you agree?
Sure, why not?
You're not even listening.
I am. I'm trying to get your levels right. Yeah, so as we're recording this, it is November 2024, and it is the first time they've done PrideFEST as the 10-day format. Yeah. What did you think of the 10-day format?
I'm exhausted. There has been so many really good events for Pride, and it's been just absolutely amazing. There's so many things that I've wanted to attend but can't attend because we've just been so busy. There's so many things we have attended and really loved. It's been really great, and like to see the turnout, and it was one of those things. So we live in Perth. Like, I mean, if you've been listening to the podcast, probs know this.
If this is the first time you're tuning in, we do live in Perth, yes.
Perth, Scotland.
No, Perth, Western Australia, obviously. Can't you tell from our accents?
No, this is my accent. This is what it is. It's
your
the
accent,
gravel.
though, people do find it a bit harder trying to work out where you are from sometimes.
It's because I'm incognito mode.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Incognito mode.
Yeah, that's me.
Anyway, before we get distracted, so the 10-day format. What did you think?
10-day format. Thought it was great. We started off, because we haven't been able to chat to you for a while, so I'm going to tell you everything that we've done. So we started off with it was actually the AGWA.
No, we started off with cricket.
Oh, it was the cricket. Yes, excuse me. Thank you for being my memory, my love. So we started off with the cricket.
And there was a Uni Pride round that we were invited to by Trudy.
Yep, absolutely. Our friend Trudy, which was so much fun. And we got to watch Police against DFES.
Yes.
And do you know what? It has ignited in me I wouldn't say love, but a nice like for cricket.
Yeah.
I've never really, sorry people, I'm going to be very truthful, but I've never really put much cadence on cricket. It's a bit boring for me. But when I went and chatted to Trudy about it and watched the cricket, I actually really liked it and we really got into it.
Yeah.
And we were cheering on the Police and and we're going to go again.
And you really enjoyed it when they hit sixes.
Oh, it was fucking brilliant. I was just like, oh, it's great.
It was a great way to start off our Pride. And then the following weekend, what do we do after that?
The AGWA Ball.
The AGWA Ball. We did see tickets and we're like, wow, this is really, really expensive. But then we actually won tickets through Cheeky Waffles.
Oh, it was bloody amazing.
Yeah.
So the AGWA Ball is the Art Gallery of WA, so Art Gallery of Western Australia Ball, which is so featuring PrideFEST.
Yeah, so it looks like they do other events, but this was their Pride edition and it's the first time I've ever seen it. Before?
I think it was the first one they were saying, which was amazing. So we didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
And very lucky in winning the competition with Cheeky Waffles. Thank you, Cheeky Waffles. You're amazing. And it was just amazing because it was the base level as well as the rooftop of the art gallery. And it was extensive. They had drag performances. They had dancers.
They had the beautiful chocolate. What was their name?
Yeah. Oh, shall I quickly do a bit of a Google?
Just a quick Google. I want to say ganache, but it wasn't ganache. It was like La Chocolata, and they were from England.
Yeah, Brighton specifically. Le Gâteau Chocolat.
Yeah, they were incredible. They had a booming, gorgeous voice. And I was close with when I said ganache.
You were. Absolutely. How they entered, and I just thought it was so dramatic, in this golden dress as they descended the staircase quite gracefully in somebody who's in a golden dress and could easily fall downstairs. And then they got to nearly the bottom of the stairs and they let out this beautiful voice that was just this operatic, gorgeous. I think they were singing in German first. And like they had this massive, beautiful beard as well that was all glittered, and this drag makeup that was just, it was honestly, I loved it. And then there was like, of course, canapes, drinks, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You'd go upstairs.
And they had like a lolly bar as well. So they had a lolly bar, and then there was an outdoor charcuterie board where you can go and like nibble whatever you wanted. They had the 360 photo booth. It was a good time, and would definitely go again, knowing now what your $150 pays for. Because, you know, there is cost of living, and we're like, $150 is a lot to break the bank. But going, we're like, wow, this is fabulous, and would definitely go again.
Absolutely. And then they had the performances that were up on the top level as well, which was like they had this environment set out where they had naked people wandering around doing their art stuff, and then the dance floor and the DJ. There was so much stuff. It was amazing. And of course, cheeky waffles are at the top, and their waffles are so bloody good.
I've never had a cheeky waffle before, and it was like really dense, but it was in a good way.
Yeah. And like I got a penis because I was like value for money.
I got one of the, I got the same because, I don't want to say I got the same because exactly, value for money. You got more dough for that than you did the other one.
But you know what? And like, I'm all pro sexuality and stuff, but I did feel a bit awkward when they were doing the whole like
it was
dipping, and they're like, oh, like, I'm not going to say it on live.
Anyway, so final thoughts on the art gala?
It was great. Would definitely do again. Absolutely loved it. Worth $150.
Yep.
I reckon it's going to sell out like hotcakes. It's what we needed. And like, I've never been to a gala and I loved it.
Yeah. We definitely need to work on our outfits for next year.
I feel like we were a happy medium though. Like there were some people who didn't know what to expect the event, and they were just like jeans and t-shirts, and then there was like ball gowns.
Yeah, there was someone with a whole floral stuff all on their dress that went for like a few meters. It was insane.
This floral arrangement on the train. It was crazy.
Yeah. And then what did we do after that? So what followed after the art gala?
Oh God, what is this, like a cognitive test?
So what else we've been doing is we went to the Pride opening at the Piazza. So that was nice. And then after that, Florence and we went to the Perth Front Runners. And that was so much fun. It was such a well-organised event. We even got medals at the end. And you didn't have to run. People were walking, people were strolling, people were riding their bikes, people had their pets. And they did competitions as well. And the end, it finished with like drag performances. And it was a great vibe. And you could have done the 3, the 5, or the 7 kilometers. And we did the 5-kilometer walk, but we walked pretty fast so that we could get back in time for all the performances. But no, it was a very, very well organized event. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
What do you reckon the turnout was for that?
Oh, there's probably more people there than there was at the opening. So I think at the opening, there was about 250.
Yeah, there was.
Oh, I think there was at least double. So I'd say at least 500 people were there. And it was a great vibe. And it was down at Elizabeth Quay. And yeah, everybody was super welcoming and awesome. And it was definitely a nice way to start off the PrideFest, having that as like the main thing on the Saturday. And then on the Sunday, we had Fair Day. And we met all you lovely people, and thank you so much. And we met someone from the Perth Hornets that I felt really, really awkward about afterwards because I'm not very good when people say it like, hi. But they were so lovely.
They're so beautiful.
They were so lovely. So thank you for coming and saying hi, because we did tell people to come say hi.
I know, but we did say hi to a lot of people.
We did.
And it was just so beautiful. It was a very hot day, and we were appreciative of the turnout that people came down. It was well packed on a day that was meant to be 28 degrees, but there was no shade and like 100% humidity.
One of our friends did point out that because all the tents are white, it's all reflecting the sun everywhere.
Yeah.
And so there just wasn't enough shade. It was a great vibe for everybody who came down and said hello, and people who just wanted to see what we actually looked like.
I know, that was so cute.
Yeah.
And a couple of people who came back like following
from the
years,
previous years,
which is so lovely. Yeah, people came back from last year who'd seen us before and chatted to us and said they'd listened to the podcast, and they came back and had some chats again. And that was so beautiful. And it was really nice chatting to individuals as well. And when they were like, oh, you've got a podcast, that's a lot of people assume, because when you walk into it, I mean, we are a stall. It's not like it's straight out that, apart from the giant sign at the back that says we're a podcast.
Yep.
They're like, oh, what do you do? We're just like, we're a podcast. They're like, that's cool.
Our table kind of looks like an ADHD mayhem of all the little knickknackies and stuff. And
100%.
we do a lot of different random merchy things, but also a lot of our little knickknackies and craft stuff so that we can actually fund the podcast and keep it going.
Absolutely. Because we don't get paid for the shit, but we love it. It's a labour of love. Anyway, it was so lovely talking to people, and people would be like, what's your podcast about? And being able to be like, hey, this is what we talk about. And then people being so beautiful and authentic and saying like, that sounds like that would be really nice because I'm struggling with family or I'm struggling with identity. And yeah, it was really beautiful to be able to talk to people like that because like we talk like this.
Yeah.
But it's not often, well, I mean, I said it's not often that we actually get to talk to people who listen to us, but we actually do quite a fair bit. Not going to lie. Not going to lie. And I always find it really beautiful. So
I think also living in Perth, it's such a small community that we often do run into a lot of our friends who listen to it or other people who've become our friends from listening to the podcast.
Yeah, so true.
There's always those opportunities rather than being in a big city.
The other thing is I remember when we were going to the opening of Pride at the Piazza and walking in and being like, I don't know anyone here. There's like 250 gay people or queer people that I'm like, I don't know any single one of these people. What am I doing? I need to get out. Where are these pictures?
Well, we did spend a lot of time out for November.
We did so much out. But yeah, Fair Day was really great. It was a lot of families that came around. There was literally something for absolutely everybody, which we love.
Yes.
A heads up, we are not going to be down there next year as a stall. We will be wandering around and attending it.
Yes.
But we're just having a year off.
It is a lot of work and we're very, very exhausted.
We are.
So we're taking a year off of Fair Day, but we'll be back hopefully in 2026.
Absolutely. What was your favourite part of Fair Day?
Favourite part of Fair Day?
It's hard because we didn't get to experience it.
We don't get to really experience it. It's really awesome getting to chat with everyone, but we don't get to experience it. And it being at Supreme Court Gardens this year, it was a very different vibe where last year where we were situated, we could watch the acts from the music tents and all that kind of stuff, where this year was just very, very different and it was more markety than it was like a fair.
Yeah.
And so I think it was a bit harder to get out and do things because we're kind of stuck in our little stall.
Yeah, you're so right, isn't it? Like last year we could see directly to the stage and watch the dog show and watch the drag queens. It felt more homely.
Yeah.
Whereas this year, I agree, it
was more like a market.
It was more like a market. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then
we went to the PICA.
We did. Oh.
PICA After Dark. And it was so they do After Dark versions, but this was their Pride edition.
Yeah. And so PICA, which is the Perth Institute of Contemporary Arts, is another art gallery, but it's more, I would say, targeted at less of the generic of what you would see at the WA Art Gallery, which tends to be more international artists.
Yep.
Whereas Perth Contemporary is more WA-based artists.
Or Australian-based
artist. I don't know. I just feel like PICA has more like quirky things.
Yeah, I think it's more out-of-the-box thinking rather than your art. It's more like, this is art and we say it's art, so this is art, rather than being fit into boxes that
I feel like the art gallery has... Like they probably have this curation team that has very set things of what they can actually display.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like PICA is a little bit more out there. And I guess the other thing is like you're more likely to see naked bodies in PICA than you are in the art gallery. And it's more, I find there's greater installations at PICA than in the art gallery. But anyway, this is someone who's a layman who's not involved in the arts. But no, it was a lot of fun. And how would you describe PICA After Dark?
It was a good vibe. So it was very chill. It was very relaxed. I think the music was a little bit loud because there was someone on the mezzanine level who was DJing, and it was just too much because the fact that you lost the atmosphere and the music of some of the exhibits that were in there. And it kind of was very distracting when you're trying to look at the artwork and stuff. But I thought it was good fun. I always love that they have like an activity that you can do. So we did like a collage thing that you guys might have seen it on our story if you guys were paying attention during Pride. Those pieces were our beautiful art that I think we spent half an hour
I know
making.
We did.
But yeah.
It was very peaceful.
Yeah.
You and I just sitting in silence while we just little arted away to ourselves. It was gorgeous.
And then someone came and stole our glue while we were doing it, even though there's a whole container of glue, but sure. So yeah, that was it. And then obviously we had the Pride Parade.
Yeah, we did have Pride Parade. So, which was freaking great because there were so many organisations, Pride organisations were around for their anniversaries, like their 50-year anniversaries or the 31-year anniversaries, which was just so beautiful to see.
Yeah.
And for those who haven't attended Pride Parade, it's based around Northbridge and it's a parade.
Yeah, so it kind of goes from Russell Square on one side and it comes all the way back down and finishes at Russell Square as well.
Yeah. And it's great. And you just watch and you have all these floats and people are dressed up. There's a DJ, there's drag queens. There's performances before the parade starts, and the parade generally starts at 8 o'clock. And it was really great to just cheer people on. And they've got people from all different walks of life.
So many.
You've got like your community services. You've got all of your healthcare services as well, which is really good. You've got your businesses that support Pride. And then just like random groups of people who also are like very Pride influencing. So you had your bears, you had your, was it the pups?
Yep.
And then you had, which is really cool. Sorry, just jumping back to the bears, that their bear of the year is a trans man, which I just thought is so fucking awesome and embracing community. And then you had, and it's always started with a welcome to country, which is gorgeous. I love it. As well as there's a fire ceremony.
Smoking ceremony.
Thank you. Smoking ceremony, which that person on the fire smoking, which is on the back of a truck. And like it started going up in flames. And he just like obvious professional. He's just like, yeah, just put some leaves on that shit. And then flames gone, smoke there. Perfect. I'm like, mate, this is why you're the boss. Like I literally, and he was like jamming out, dancing. And I was like, dude, you're just freaking awesome. And then it starts with Dykes on Bikes, which is just like, it's a
tradition.
vibe.
Yeah.
Honestly, such a vibe.
Yeah, I thought the parade was good. There's a lot of different sports clubs, so there's different things that you'd like to get involved with as well, that if you didn't know, we really would love to try to get into the Pride Parade, if not 2026, maybe the year after.
Yeah.
So we're aiming to be around for a while, so please stick with us, keep supporting us so that we can keep doing this.
Yeah.
I thought this year the gaps were ridiculously long.
Yeah, I think that they were. They did make some curated gaps for people to like
the roller derby. That makes sense having a gap. Yeah.
Roller derby and Jesse on the scooter for Australia Post.
Oh, yeah.
That was so freaking cool. I love that. And then a lot for like the rugby teams and stuff. So I could understand it in some rights, but in other rights you were kind of standing around.
Just waiting for ages.
I think it must be really hard. Like there was some people that had kids walking the parade, and there was this little girl, the roller derby. The little girl who was on the scooter, and she was determined. I think she must have been like 4 or something, and she was determined to like
high five every single person.
Every single person. And guys, we were talking about like hundreds of people that
on each side
that she was trying to high five, and she was so determined as well. She's like, yes, okay.
So we did actually get the VIP Piazza viewing.
Yeah,
we would not recommend.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think it's worth the $30-something. Like, the way that it was sold was it was like a VIP viewing with a bar, but it's not. It's VIP viewing in a little caged-off area, but you also had access to the bar, so it definitely wasn't worth it. It's probably better money, especially in a cost of living, just to go to a bar and then just go outside and wait on the fence.
Yeah. I think the Pride WA people did really well. Like, the volunteers did really well of trying to manage it. But I think in the future, hopefully they rejig how the layout actually is, so it's a bit easier. And also like having, because I know you mentioned that they had stands
I've
previous
seen stands
year.
Previously in the VIP areas, so
and they
we
didn't
thought
do
that
it
was
this
going to
year. Yeah, it was just literally standing on the side of the road, similar to other areas. But still, in doing that, like,
because some people got some tickets for free from a friend, I heard.
Oh.
And so there's all the people who were behind us was like, lucky we didn't pay for this because this is not worth any money. And so that's kind of a bit of a disappointment because it's the first time they've done the pop-up bar, which I love the pop-up bar.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Honestly.
But I think with the VIP stuff, rejigging that could be really, really good.
Yeah, I think so too.
And we're not here to bag it out. We're just giving our honest opinion.
Yeah.
So that those who, if you're looking to buy tickets the following year, hopefully they change it up a bit.
And to be honest, it's like what we do as well is that with our podcast, we try to get to as many events as we can do. But like, that's a lot. Like, it's beautiful. And I'm so thankful. I don't mean to be misinterpreted. I am so thankful we've got so many Pride events. But if you have a low social battery, or if you're a very busy person or have a lot of things, you have to pick and choose because...
See, I would disagree. I think it's because you were so far behind in the making of stuff for Fair Day that you were exhausted because you were kind of going. Where, because I was all done, I was okay.
Yeah.
So I was going to the events like, it was getting a bit tired, but I'm a bit more tired because it's also, why put it at the same time when all schools had got their reporting and their markings due? But, I get it. It's definitely to do with the marches and stuff that's happened previously in WA, and that's how it coincides. But I think if you're going just as... what do you call it? Like a regular Joe? As a...
Yeah, individual.
It's not the word I'm looking for. But yeah.
Recreationally.
So if you're going recreationally, I think the 10-day format's great. You can do everything the 10 days, pick and choose, done. But I think as we're trying to grow this podcast and grow a business, we do have a little bit more of a stake in the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you're a little bit more exhausted. I'm exhausted because of, if it wasn't the same time as marking and all that kind of stuff, I'd be fine and it'd be going to even more.
Yeah.
But it's just a busy time of year for a lot of people being in November.
It's true. And there are a lot of really good things to come as well. Like there's drag bingo. Honestly, if you have a look at the Pride WA website, they've got a great calendar about anything else that you're looking forward to.
I'm looking forward to not teaching.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, true.
Yeah. It's been a big month. It's been a big 10 days.
Yeah.
By the time you're listening to this, we'll probably be towards the end of November or if not early December.
It will be the end of another year.
Yeah, and then end of another year, and then we'll soon go on break, and then we'll be back for season 3.
Yep, we sure will. Reinvigorated. And thanks for coming and seeing us if you did, or just like anything.
Yeah, we appreciate every single person who came up and said hello, even if we're awkward, because we are a little bit awkward the first time you meet us, but then our wall comes down, and the more we meet you, the more we see you, the more we're not so awkward.
Yeah, actually, can I say something to that?
Of course.
Because it's funny because in this space we're so authentic, and when we get to know each other, it's so lovely, like meeting people and being able to talk to them properly. But I find it really funny, that struggle between having to be the business person and having, I almost feel like I have to censor myself sometimes to, like, I don't know how to cross that gap.
And I think it's going to come with practice. And I think we just need to be more of our authentic selves when we are at these kind of things.
Yeah.
And I think going to Fair Day as just recreationally, as a consumer of the actual event, I think we're going to be able to be ourselves more. So when people do come up and say hello, we're going to be like, oh yeah, we can be our silly, ridiculous selves. And I think we've just got to stop, pretending to put on a face, because people listen to us because we are us.
Oh, I know, it's true.
You know what I mean?
It?
So like, if we want to be silly and say puns and jokes, like...
Actually, that was so funny when a parent was just like, oh, is the podcast able to be listened to by kids?
By a 13 or 14-year-old.
Yeah, 13 or 14-year-old. And then you were just like, yeah, we do. Like, that should be fine. Katie swears a lot. And then the kid's just like, oh, that doesn't matter. I swear all the time.
Talking about that mum who said the really great thing when she saw your boobie magnets and explained boobs to the kid. Can we please explain that before we go? The last thing.
So context-wise, guys, is that all the merch for our stall generally gets made by Archie at the moment. Does so well. Such a freaking amazing job with everything he does. And the thing that I make is the boob magnets, because it's just what I make. It's what I enjoy making. It's grand. Anyway, we had this parent come along, this mum with her child, and the child was just like, oh, what's that, mum? And the mum was just like, oh, yeah, they're boobies. And then went on to explain, because the boobies that I make are not generic, like, tits you would see at Hooters. Like, because I'm a nurse and my nursing background, it's a chest for everybody. I've got chests for people who've had mastectomies. I've got chests who've had, like, trans chests. I've got boobies that are saggy. I've got perky boobies. I've got big ones. I've got ones that are uneven, ones that go to the side, absolutely everything. And this mum just explained that so beautifully to their child, and that everyone has a different chest, and that's just normal in life, in essence. I mean, that's how I gathered from it. I thought it was so beautiful. How would you explain it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I just thought she said it so eloquently, and it was like everybody's has different boobs, and these are boobs, and some people have no boobs, and some people are born with boobs, but they don't want boobs anymore. And the way she explained it was so beautiful, and we were just like, wow.
It teared me up.
Yeah, it was great.
It was so beautiful. It was really beautiful in those moments, because we actually had a fair few moments of parents coming in and just being so beautiful and so accepting.
And it really shows where the future's headed, and it's very beautiful, and especially in Perth. Like, we were a bit scared because of the homophobic comments and stuff that we'd seen online, but everybody was gorgeous, absolutely beautiful.
Do you know what? I had a moment, it was so funny. So you make these friendship bracelets, and sometimes they actually have words on them. And there was this kid that came up, and so she asked for a friendship bracelet. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Have a look through, choose one that you like, whatever you like. And she's just like, oh, what does ANS mean? And I'm like, oh. And I got the bracelet and I turned around and I'm just like, oh, it's trans. And I'm like, so trans. And I was like, fuck, am I going to have to explain what trans is to this kid? I'm like, this is not my space. I shouldn't be doing it. I'm just like, oh, so trans is just like, oh, no, I know what trans means. And she was like 11. And I'm like, first of all, thank God. Secondly, wow.
Yeah, great parenting.
Great parenting.
Right?
So proud. So awesome. And honestly, everyone has done such a good job with all these events. Like, kudos to everybody on the work that goes into it. And even with us just participating as a business in essence, you can see everything that goes back in the backgrounds for the events coordinating, the work that people put into it, especially when it's hot, sweaty days and people are very cranky and it's really hard. But everyone has done such a great job. So I just want to say thank you to everyone out there who came down, who put it together, who did everything. It's just, we appreciate it.
Yeah, massive shout out to Pride WA and their whole team that made this event happen. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be having these events. And, you know, it's not a massive team and they put on incredible events, and all the volunteers who give their time, because they don't get paid, the volunteers, they're all there volunteering their time for the queer Perth community. So, yeah, well done, everyone. Pat yourselves on the back. Like, what you're doing is incredible, and we need people like you to keep the future of Pride in WA going.
It couldn't have come at a better time.
Yeah.
With everything that's been happening in the world, I feel like this was just the beautiful bump we needed to like keep us all invigorated and showing how much community is out there for us. And not just queer community, but also the allies that support us. It's beautiful. And it's, just amazing. And it gets a bit choking up sometimes when you're just like, you feel a bit harsh about life. And then these things happen and you're just like, you know what? We do have support. We do have people around us.
Should we end on that note?
Yeah, I think that's a lovely one.
Yeah, so thanks for listening. What's going to happen now is you're going to get into our interview, my interview, with Antony from Boyscation. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe if you've got this far. And then we'll get on to our actual scheduled...
Viewing, not hearing.
Hearing. We need to go back to videos. But yeah, thank you, and hope you enjoy the interview.
Yeah.
So on this episode, I'm talking to Antony from Boyscation Too. So Boyscation Too. What is Boyscation Too? It is a LGBTQ plus reality dating show, and it's filmed in Bali. Perth locals, most of you will know where Bali is, and it has participants from Hong Kong, Australia, and New Zealand. And on this show, it explores their journeys through love, relationship, and personal challenges. So unfortunately, we did have some technical issues when we were trying to record this interview. Antony actually stuck with me until we came up with a solution. We actually ended up having to go to Teams. So unfortunately, the quality isn't what you're used to hearing, but it is a great interview, and Antony did a great job, especially since it was actually his first time speaking English in a podcast ever. So I think he did a great job, and we really hope you enjoy this interview and this episode. For all the technology issues, thank you for sticking around and staying with me. Thank you so much for wanting to come on the show. Welcome to the show. If you had to describe yourself, only 3 words, what would that be?
In the 3 words, the first word would be cheeky. Second word would be sensitive, authentic. So those are my 3 words.
I love that. Why did you choose those 3 words?
But cheeky is my sense of humor. And I think it's also actually a good test whether other people could actually match my energy. When I come into the room, then you can actually read the room. If you actually like crack a joke, if people actually laugh loudly, you can actually have a good idea whether it is actually your room to be in. And sensitive. I think I have always been an empathetic person. I think that's been developed through a lot of volunteering work, a lot of corporate communication. But at the same time, while being sensitive, I'm also actually quite an authentic person. Try to be myself, not to be affected too much by other people's emotions or overreaction.
No, that's awesome. And you are on Boyscation Too. For those who haven't watched it yet, how would you describe the show in a few sentences?
In high terms, I would describe Boyscation Too. It's a bunch of Hong Kong single gay guys. They went on to the Love Island equivalent, Bali, to do a bunch of activities, try to match with the perfect match or whatsoever, and see whether that would actually just go anywhere.
So looking at the trailer, it kind of does look a little bit like Perfect Match meets The Boyfriend meets Love Island.
I've seen Boyfriend. I think Boyfriend is actually a lot more. In that setting of Boyfriend, you can actually go in and they basically just do the same activities, running the coffee fan for a long period of time. And I think Boyfriend was shot over 3 months. Boyscation was shot like in 6 days.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it was 6 days. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's like pressure cooker situation that we have to actually learn about each other. We have to actually do a bunch of activities to try to get some sort of connection as soon as possible. So a lot more drama, so it's longer hours, so you get more tired. So a lot more raw emotions coming out in a very, very quick period of time.
That totally makes sense. When you've got all these range of emotion condensed in 6 days, you're tired. It's almost like you can't put on a mask. Everything's just out there.
Exactly. And especially when you have like, I would say like 40 cameras looking at you. There was no downtime. And it's a big group of people. So there were like starting with 12. Then we have 2 intruders. So it's a big bunch of people with a lot of personalities.
Yeah, you're all trying to get each other's attention at the same time for 6 days.
Some people actually get a lot more popular votes than other people. So that's the real world.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that a reflection of the world? No matter what, some people are going to be more popular.
Exactly. Yeah, especially two people actually always get all the votes. So basically the dynamic is that after every activities, we have to vote and see if we would actually match with the person that we mutually voted for. And then you go on a single date, like a one-on-one date.
Oh, that sounds very fun.
Mm-hmm.
When you found out that you were going to be on the show, what was your first reaction?
So according to Vinci, the producer of the show, we didn't actually go through an audition process. It's pretty much handpicked by Vinci himself. So he met like a bunch of people, like organically, from bars, from his social circle. And I was asked at a pretty late selection stage because he was struggling finding someone. And I've known Vinci for a really long time, probably 18 years. And the time I visited Hong Kong, I met up with him. And I think some sort of like, okay, well, I think I came across to him probably Antony as actually a suitable personality to be in the show. Even though there's like quite a big age gap from the oldest person to the second oldest person. I'm actually the oldest person on the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I guess my personality, he found it actually quite interesting for television. So he casted me in the show.
How was it like being the oldest person? What did that feel like?
When I was shooting the show, I was 44. And I think the second oldest person that has their age revealed was 35. But luckily, age wasn't a thing that actually always been brought up by the production team. Yeah, you kind of like forgot about it after a while. So I don't think it's a massive issue, but physically, it's quite taxing when you have to shoot like 16, 17 hours every day. And every time you have to actually talk a lot about your feelings and about yourself. And it's something that I'm not really familiar with.
And so it's just a little bit out of your comfort zone and just a bit taxing on your body as well.
Yeah, definitely out of my comfort zone. And I think that's actually one of the reasons why I joined Boyscation Too. Out of comfort zone, kind of experience, out of the box. I'm actually in a very comfortable stage that I can actually have that flexibility with work, have flexibility with my family. So I can actually join a show like this.
That's awesome. And was there a particular moment on Boyscation Too that made you go, I can't believe this is happening?
I think it was actually the first meeting. So it's kind of secretive. We didn't know who's actually going to be on the show. So the first meeting, it's like we get on this ferry in Hong Kong, convert it into like a wedding venue or accommodation. And so we entered into the ferry one by one. So you can actually imagine the first person coming into the ferry would actually be quite daunting. You meet each person one by one. And at the end of 10, it's like, oh my God, well, I'm going to actually be spending days with these strangers. That's actually the dawning moment. Okay, I'm in the show. And also having like so many cameras look at you, try to actually make conversation, ignoring the cameras is actually quite, I would say actually it's quite interesting. I mean, even if you actually have like some sort of warped expression or reaction on something, it would actually be captured by the camera.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They can take a small little smile and make a completely different story with it.
Yeah, and I did actually realize when I do my single headshot, it's not exactly what I've said. It's edited by so many different interviews and mashed into one. So sometimes I could hear myself slurring my words as if I'm actually suffering a stroke, but it's actually just editing.
People forget that it's still a television show. So, you need to edit it and make it what the audience are going to want to watch. So it's not exactly an authentic view of every contestant, and people need to remember that.
And I'm grateful. I got really good at it. But yeah, it's a show. It has to be entertaining. I mean, nobody actually wants to see you reading a book.
Nobody wants to see no drama and everybody living in peace. Like, there has to be something that's going to keep the audience engaged.
Exactly. You're right. Totally correct.
So navigating your cultural identity can be challenging, even without cameras. Adding the cameras, it makes it so much harder. Did you feel that being on the show gave you a new perspective of being queer with a traditional Chinese family while living in Australia?
I think I'm more cultural shock because I've been living in Australia for such a long time. And going back to a Hong Kong show and meeting people a lot younger than I am, it's like I'm dissing them, but it's not. But it's just like I have to make adjustment. I mean, I guess, younger people, they're not very engaging at the beginning. They probably, like when the camera is switched off, they just went off and played their video games. Or just look down onto the phone, which was a culture shock for me, but I understand that's what people do nowadays.
Yes.
Even though in Hong Kong is such a high populated, dense city, that's their own personal space that they actually cherish by looking down to the phone. So that's part one thing that I needed to adjust. And being a 44-year-old, probably I felt that I needed a lot more me time. I need to actually re-energize having that small me time, like after that 16, 17 hours. But I can feel the difference. Like those younger people, they're a lot more energized. They're a lot more energetic throughout the show. They just like energize funny. Just like keep going and going and going. At a certain point, I was like, oh my God, this is so draining. This is actually so tired. But it's a great experience. I would actually miss it for a dime, for a penny. It's a great experience. I had a great time.
And because now you do live in Australia, did you feel like you had things that were very different from the other contestants, or could you still relate in the way you're living your lives at the moment?
It's so remote from reality. So you kind of actually just being brainwashed, like, this is actually the world. It does actually affect your emotions. Like, oh, okay, well, if you don't get picked, you feel kind of sad not getting picked. If you kind of have some sort of exchange of looks or gazes, you thought maybe that's a relationship. Maybe it's actually an opportunity to make a connection. During that time, I did immerse myself into the experience. But when you finish shooting, it's like, okay, well, it's the real world.
That totally makes sense. And what do you hope viewers from different backgrounds take away from your journey on the show?
So this is basically the second season of Boyscation Too. So first season, I think it was actually the first gay dating show in mainstream Hong Kong television. So they tackle a lot more issues related to gays, what they're actually going through, and society expectation or stereotypes that they find it hard to live with. But the second season, since we already actually do all the educational part in first season, so this one is actually a lot more drama, a lot more romance driven. Because the producer won't actually just deviate itself from the first season. Otherwise, it's just be a complete the same wholesome. We all love each other. Let's have a hug. Let's come out. So this is actually a lot more dramatic, a lot more exciting, a lot more funny, a lot of airtime on the personality of each contestant. Yeah.
No, that sounds very good. So with the show, reality TV, and you've said you were tired, you're exhausted, everything comes out. Was there any intense moment that you thought that you grew from? Did you grow personally from any moments on the show?
I've learned to talk a lot about myself. I hated it. I'm not that kind of narcissistic person to talk about myself all the time.
Yes.
I find it so foreign. I find it's just like, oh my God, it's like I don't have that much to share in terms of emotions and my personal feelings. It's not like I'm sharing my emotions, my opinions. It's going to change the world. I'd rather do it with helping other people or just like do it with action. But I learned how to communicate myself to the camera.
That is the talent.
And I've learned, well, I haven't actually had the opportunity of working with such a big bunch of people that I don't know. That was a good experience, yet a very, very, I would say interesting, because a lot of big personalities, especially with the contestants. And also, I mean, the crew are great. But at the same time, when you actually just like have so many people with you, you do feel isolated and lonely at a certain time because it's just like so overwhelming. You just actually want to remove yourself and be by yourself. Yeah.
You did mention like big personalities. At times, did you feel like you got lost with other big personalities?
Luckily, I did actually get lost of myself because I always actually remind myself what's my purpose of going into the show, what I want to get out of it. But of course, with the 16, 17 hours of shooting, and sometimes you just like spaced out. I don't know, like multiverse experience, like why am I in this universe at the moment? Like this is so unfamiliar from day-to-day life. Why am I all of a sudden with all these people that I don't even know, like probably a week ago? And it's just mesmerizing, I would say. It's just surreal.
So if you could go on a dream date, right? No limits, any
No
location, anything
boyscation.
at all.
No boyscation.
Yeah, no boyscation, whatever. What would that look like to you? 1-on-1, not like 12-on-1. How would that look like?
Or 12 on 2.
Yeah, 12-on-2. Yeah.
My dream date would actually be just spending time with one person and have a really good chat. The thing is that I find that myself always actually being that empathetic person, try to understand or try to be empathetic to the person of what his feelings or what he needs. Probably it's actually from a lot of volunteering work that I've done. And having that person actually doing the reverse, not just actually just showing their care or their affection in their own way, but instead just understanding me and try to understand who the person I am, tell me that what I'm thinking or what I'm actually looking for, have that mutual understanding. I think that's actually a very romantic thing that would actually just like move me.
You are a romantic at heart, aren't you?
I am, yeah, eventually. Well, having that person who knows you, I mean, that's actually a treasure. That's a gift in life.
And no TV show, no cameras will take that away.
Yeah.
From you. It's very different, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
If you could create your own queer dating show, what would that look like for you?
If I'm being really, really like indulgent, a show that not show anybody. You don't care about advertisers, you don't care about sponsors, you don't care about the ratings. I think I would actually do a show with people are marginalized in a society. They don't really have a visibility in the society. And those people you don't really get to know, they don't get enough support. If you actually, I just probably setting up a dream date of those people to meet with each other, just to like make them feel special. It's like the first date, so you have probably 2-3 pairs every episode throughout the whole season and just see how they actually interact, how you could actually just empathize those people, what they're actually going through. And I think it's actually a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's almost like you're just on a fly on the wall to someone meeting for the first time without the drama. It's just people connecting and you're seeing if it works or not. I like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think there are so many people actually just fell out of society. They felt isolated. They felt marginalized. They felt their voice never been heard. So I think just giving a platform for them to have that visibility, I think it's really important to them, to the society, to the confidence, to the family, to the friends.
And it's great that we are starting to see a lot more queer dating shows, and queer dating shows that are not just in America. We're starting to see them in a lot of different countries, especially like Hong Kong, and you're looking at Japan and that kind of stuff where it's not openly, everybody's allowed to be gay. It's still a little bit of taboo
That's right.
So it's nice to see that. I think Australia needs a queer dating show. Why do we not have one?
Did we have one before? I don't know.
I can't actually think.
Did we have one?
I don't know.
No, I don't think
Nothing
we have
comes
one.
to mind.
Yeah.
That's your calling, to make a queer Australian dating show.
Really? Well, you know what? The producer, Finchi, he actually spent a lot of money. This is actually his own production. He didn't get any backup from any major TV channel or station. So it's a lot of money. And the reality is that it's really hard to find sponsors who actually support LGBTQ causes on the mainstream television. So, but you know what? In Australia, we're actually quite grateful because we're getting more visibility in the mainstream media. You see gay characters on Neighbours. You didn't see a lot of gay characters still in Asian media, but it's quite weird. So in Asia, like especially in Thailand and also in Japan, you have this BL series called Boy Love. So it's like with gay characters are the main characters, but the main audience is actually women.
Really?
It's not for gay men. And apparently
That's
the demographics. So these women, they're just crazy about this Boy Love series.
I did not know that. That's so interesting.
I know, probably because they just don't want to see another woman competing with them.
It's okay. Yeah, we don't have to compete with them.
I just want to look at all the good-looking guys, all the gorgeous guys on the series.
Yeah. Has Boyscation Too changed your outlook on relationships at all, or has it stayed the same? One
of the reasons why I actually taken this opportunity to do Boyscation Too, it's because I haven't actually had a relationship for a really long time. And I'm so comfortable being single. Well, besides having the out-of-box experience, but at the same time, well, maybe I tried the usual grind, social media apps, meeting people. Yeah, didn't reap any fruits in process. So, well, it's such a different platform. So we'll see whether that actually come to anything significant. I mean, come to anything, like come to any good result, conclusion after the show. No spoilers.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see your journey and root for you on the show and see what happens.
Oh, thank you. You have to watch it with English subtitles.
Looking back on your journey, and if someone else was in your seat and they were considering going on a show like Boycation Too, what advice would you give them?
That's actually a very good question. I think being myself, an authentic self going into the show, I felt that I didn't actually create enough drama to get airtime.
Yeah.
So it really depends on your purpose of going on the show. On this mainstream platform, what do you want to get out of it? I think everybody have their own prerogative, their own agenda. So if you actually want more airtime, probably you have to be more strategic how to actually get more airtime. But if you just like, oh, I'm just here for an experience, here to be an authentic self, I mean, nothing's wrong with that. I mean, just go and enjoy yourself.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
love that. And if you had any advice, life advice for our listeners or any words of wisdom, what would you say?
Well, this is actually an epiphany that I've learned this year, which have actually changed my outlook in life a lot. I suffered a lot of anger issues in the past, with me coming out to my family, they didn't accept me as I was, and then also actually that probably affected my other relationship or whatever. So I've learned this thing, anger, it's basically punishing yourself by other people's mistakes.
That is true. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah. So when I see a person not picking up after their dogs, I used to get really angry, like road rage or whatever. That line would just pop up in my head straight away. You're actually punishing yourself of other people's mistakes. It's so not worth it. Yeah, and you can change the situation.
Very true. I love that. There's things we have to think about. It's like, why are we punishing ourselves and being angry about someone else's action when we can't change them?
Yeah, exactly. But not in terms of fighting rights and the spectrum of like inequality. I'm just talking about small things you couldn't change in the past. You have to actually make peace of what happened in the past. But at the same time, you have to actually fight for equality and rights for other minorities. And also the people are actually disadvantaged in our society. So every day you have things to learn. Every day there are lessons to be learned. So yeah, keep learning, keep growing.
Thanks everyone for listening. I hope you enjoyed this chat. Thanks so much, Antony. It was so lovely getting to know you, and I'm excited to see your journey on Boyscation Too. For all your listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope that we have been
perfectly queer.
Let's be perfectly queer.